Alright everybody, it is time for me to review Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, or I guess we can call it the new Avengers because they have officially revealed that that is the real title of the movie. It's a smart rebrand, and I think it's going to bring a lot of people into the theaters that might have been on the fence about Thunderbolts. And yes, I know this review is coming a little bit late. I actually saw the movie the day it came out, but I was just so busy I never got around to actually reviewing it, but today is the day. Everyone is saying the MCU is back, and this is one of the best movies in the entire franchise, and I think people are overhyping it just a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, this is a good movie, but it's not one of the best in the MCU. So essentially what the movie is about is we've got Val, who is the head of the CIA. She's getting impeached, and she's trying to cover up all of her tracks. And those tracks include a whole bunch of mercenaries that have worked for her, and she's trying to eliminate them all. And that's how these characters all cross paths and eventually end up forming a team, which is the Thunderbolts in the movie. And then on top of that, we've got another villain, which is the Void, which is the alter ego of Sentry, aka Bob. So let's talk pros and cons, and then I will give you guys my rating out of 10. Now, my first positive is the directing. I thought Jake Schreier did a fantastic job with this movie. I thought it was directed really well, and there's actually some reports going on right now that he is like the front runner for the X-Men reboot movie, which I think that's a fantastic choice. I think he really understands how to make a team film because every member on the Thunderbolts or the new Avengers, they all had their moment to shine. They were really fleshed out, and the whole team dynamic was just done extremely well, and I think he could definitely apply those skills to an X-Men movie. My next positive is the chemistry between the cast. It was really, really good. Then I would say the action was pretty solid. There was a couple of scenes that maybe were a little too CGI heavy, but for the most part, I thought the action was really well done. Especially a lot of the hand-to-hand combat scenes, especially the first fight scene when all of these mercenaries meet each other. I really, really like that scene. I would also say the story is pretty solid. Yeah, it might be a little bit basic and a little predictable, but I thought it was solid. I thought the movie was really funny, and it was a really good balance of humor, action, and drama. It wasn't like an over-the-top funny movie. Some of the more recent MCU stuff has been very, very comedic focused, and it's just, too funny. Like, they're trying way too hard. This movie, I thought, blended comedy with action and drama a lot better than some of the more recent projects. I also thought they did a really good job with connecting this movie to the broader MCU without making it, the focus of the movie, if that makes sense. They will reference things from the broader universe, but it's not so, heavy-handed like some of their more recent projects have been. There was a scene that I really liked from Val that referenced events of Captain America: Brave New World, which was awesome to see because that movie just came out a couple of months ago. And it just gives you the feeling of that connected universe that I think we've kind of lost over the last few years, especially in Phase 4 and 5. So the references to the broader MCU are kind of subtle, but it definitely makes everything feel connected, which I liked. Standouts for me in this movie is Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. I thought she was fantastic. We really get to explore her darker side. I also thought John Walker was absolutely fantastic, way better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then I would say Bucky was probably my third favorite out of the team members there. He's just always a fun character to watch, and Sebastian Stan has really mastered the performance as Bucky. And in this movie, he gets to play almost like Terminator, like a congressman version of Terminator, which I thought was pretty cool. And my god, his suit in the post-credit scene is phenomenal. I'm gonna need the hot toy of that. The other characters on the team I did enjoy, but just not as much as John Walker, Yelena, and Bucky. We've got, Taskmaster. I'm sure you guys all probably know. She doesn't really feature that much in the movie is all I'll say, because this is a spoiler-free review. I thought Ghost was pretty cool, but I would have liked to have fleshed her out a little bit more. I liked her more in this movie than I did in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but I think I just needed a little bit more from her character. We got to spend some more time with her, see her powers, and, I do prefer her performance in this film, but like I said, I just wanted a little bit more from Ghost. And then Red Guardian, David Harbour crushes it. He's super funny, and he's just a joy to watch. Essentially, we've got a team of really depressed people that have very bad pasts, and they want to move forward and make a name for themselves, and that's when they form this team and tried to do so. Now I want to talk about the Sentry and then we'll move on to some negatives. I thought Lewis Pullman absolutely crushed it as Robert Reynolds, aka Bob, aka the Sentry. He nailed it as crackhead Bob, and then also as superhero Sentry, and then also as the Void. And it's crazy to think that Stephen Yeun was originally going to play the Sentry, and then that didn't work out, and then Lewis Pullman took the role, and for him to have done this well is kinda crazy. And I like Lewis Pullman, you know, I haven't seen a ton of stuff that he's in, but everything I have seen him in, I have liked, and I would say might be my favorite performance from him. And I just can't wait to see the Sentry again. He's confirmed to be in Avengers Doomsday, and I hope we get to see, like, Sentry vs. Doctor Doom fight or something. That would be awesome. I like the suit, too. I think it's comic accurate. It's obviously MCU-ified with the lines and the textures and everything, and I think there's a little bit too much padding in the suit, but I think if they tweak it a little bit for Doomsday, it could be perfect. But yeah, all of the characters were fantastic. The group dynamic was great. The performances from everyone in this film was really good. And I also want to point out the cinematography. There's a lot of scenes in this movie, especially when we see scenes with the Void and all that. It just looks visually stunning. So yeah, I think I've glazed this movie enough. Let's go ahead and talk about some negatives. My first one is going to be Val. I just wish she was a little bit more menacing. Like, don't get me wrong, she's a villain, clearly. She is the opposition for the Thunderbolts, but I just think she could have done a little bit more to really paint that picture of an evil villain. Then I would say some of the CGI wasn't fantastic. Now, there's one scene where Sentry is fighting the team specifically that I want to talk about. The CGI, in my opinion, isn't terrible, but it does look kind of like a video game. A lot of people have pointed out that it looks like a PS4 cutscene, and, you know, I totally get that criticism. Then I would say I wanted to see a little bit more of the Void. Like, we get to see him for a decent amount, but I would have liked to have seen more of the actual villain Void, because he looks badass, he looks menacing, and I just wish we spent more time with that villain. And another negative I had is that some of the actions that happen in this movie, the repercussions and, you know, people in universe don't really acknowledge them all that much, which was kind of weird. Like, for example, the big ending happens, and then, like, nobody is questioning Robert Reynolds, and I'm like, what? Like, he just did this crazy thing, and no one's gonna question him, no one's gonna, you know, call him out, like, nothing. I'm like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. Because what he does in the finale is massive, and no one is talking about it. And then my final negative for this movie would be that we did not get to see all of the characters on this poster here in the Void, because the Void is like this dark place where you relive your darkest memory. We got to see a few of the characters, but not all of them, and I feel like this movie, if you added another 10 minutes and we saw all of these trauma rooms for all of the characters, I think that would have made the movie better and fleshed out some of the characters that could have used a little bit more screen time. Characters like Ghost, I think if she had a trauma room scene where, you know, we're revisiting some deep, dark memories, I think that would have really benefited her character in this movie. Same with Bucky. Now, I know we've seen a lot of his trauma unfold throughout the MCU over the last decade plus, but I think, you know, having a scene with his trauma in this movie would have been good to see, and Red Guardian as well. And a little bit more for Val. I think that could have fleshed her out more. We do get a little glimpse, but I think we could have used a few more minutes. So yeah, guys, the Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers, is a really solid MCU film. Like I said, I think people are overhyping it a little bit. Probably just because this is like the best MCU movie in the last few years. But it is a good movie, don't get me wrong. I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's really solid. It's really close to being a great movie, like an 8 out of 10 for me. Some people are saying it's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and I don't really understand how. Like that, I think Guardians 3 is a superior movie, but this movie's not far behind. I just think if we had a bit more time with the villains like Void and Val, and also, you know, connected it to the universe a little bit more, polished up the CGI, and maybe had a couple more really interesting and dynamic fight scenes, I think this movie could have been easily an 8 out of 10 or higher. The group dynamic was great, the directing is great, the story was solid, everything is just really good, it's just not great in my opinion. And with that being said, I definitely recommend to go check out this movie in theaters. I think you will definitely have a good time. And if you have seen it, let me know what you guys thought about the film down below in the comments.